Howdy folks, this is Shane. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I recently put a video up, maybe a couple of months ago now, explaining the best podcast setup for under $80 US. And a lot of people seem to really enjoy that setup. So thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed all the gear that I listed in that video. If you haven't seen it, I'll pop it up in the cards. Now, there were some comments I wanted to address on that video, as well as also show you one of the microphones that I think might be well suited to sort of match with those particular type of comments. So a couple of people mentioned that if your room's untreated or if you've got a lot of ambient noise, a condenser mic isn't the best option, being that it will pick up more of that ambient noise. And that makes sense. I don't really believe that you can't use a condenser microphone in an untreated room. My room's completely untreated, and this is just how this Rode NT1 sounds. I think it sounds great. I would much prefer this over a dynamic microphone, but a dynamic microphone still has its pros as well. It might not sound quite as good. We maybe chuck a quick sample in a sec. It might not sound quite as good, but it will definitely not, it will block out more of that ambient noise. So if you've got noisy neighbors like I do, or a kid screaming or a dog barking, and you're using a condenser microphone, you're going to probably hear a lot more of that. So just keep that in mind. That type of comment is absolutely relevant. It's not something I really thought of. I'm just so used to using condenser mics for these kind of things that I thought, you know what, this is the best way to get great sound quality. In just a moment, I'm going to swap over to a microphone that I found that I think would make a great podcasting microphone, as well as it's a great vocal microphone. I've already used it live, and I love the sound of it on the recording. This is a microphone that is still a condenser microphone. It's got a smaller capsule, and it doesn't seem to pick up as much ambient noise, so it's a whole lot less omnidirectional, which is great. So what microphone am I talking about right now? It's the Rode M2. I'll just go get it. All right, over to the Rode M2 microphone. I'm just using this handheld because it's a lot easier than having to rig this up every single time. But the first thing I notice is if I'm quiet, I can't even hear my computer in my headphones. I could hear it before. I could hear the fan noise. So there's definitely some validity to having a microphone that doesn't capture as much ambient noise. And this should still sound pretty good. It sounds a little more boxy to my ear than the NT1, but that's expected. This is something that you can use when you perform live, and it would also make a really good condenser microphone. So if I was to turn up the gain and talk a little bit further away, you're going to get more of a natural sound. Now, some people might prefer that. For me personally, I kind of like getting up a little bit closer to the microphones and turning the gain down and having that sort of sound, but it's all subjective stuff. You could, of course, EQ this a little bit, and it would probably sound pretty similar to the NT1 to some extent, but you're definitely going to have a little bit more of a boxy sound. It's still a much better sound, in my opinion, than using just a straight-up dynamic microphone. Just as a quick comparison, we're checking out the Beta 58 microphone from Shure. This is an industry standard in terms of vocal microphones for live performance. Now, a lot of people will use this on podcasts. If you get too close to it, though, it doesn't sound very good. It sort of gets a bit sort of honky in the upper mids. It doesn't really sound very nice. Up next might be the most versatile microphone I've got in my collection of microphones. This is the Rode M3 mic. I'm not sponsored by Rode or anything like that. This microphone's about 10 years old. I actually own two of them. I use them for recording snare drums, anything from snare to electric guitar amps to acoustic guitars. You can use them for voice and all of that kind of stuff as well. You get nice and close to the mic. It's going to sound way better than the Shure, in my opinion. But notice it's still a little bit boomy on those sort of P and B words. The great thing is there's a little high-pass filter on the top. You can click that in, and then you won't get any more of those, which makes it pretty awesome. Notice when I said pretty awesome, now it's not booming. That's great. You can be up nice and close, not get a whole lot of ambient noise. If you prefer it to have a little bit more bass response, you can click it back down, and you can say pretty awesome, and it might be booming just that little bit more. Has a bit more bass response, but with the toggle switch in the up position, you don't have to worry about it. So this is a great microphone if you don't want to have a lot of ambient noise. I don't think I can hear my computer in the background with this. Maybe just a little bit, but not a lot. And lastly, I thought it might make for a good comparison going back to the Rode M2 microphone from the Rode M3. Now, the Rode M3 is such a great microphone. It's probably more versatile overall. You can put a battery in it, so even if your desk or whatever doesn't have phantom power, you can power the microphone internally with a 9-volt battery. It also has internally a switch where you can drop the volume 10 or 20 decibels, which makes it pretty sweet. And I think that's a really great feature. Has a high-pass filter and all that kind of stuff, as I mentioned. But this doesn't have any of that. You do need phantom power to power it. There's no internal battery option or anything like that. So if you do buy a condenser microphone, generally speaking, this is just a general statement. Most of them always don't have a battery option on the inside. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you need to have phantom power on your desk or mixer or audio interface or whatever to power the microphones, whereas something like this, you can use a battery internally to power it if your desk doesn't have phantom power, or you can just run it off phantom power, which is how I run it anyway. Overall, I think this is a really great mic. I picked this up maybe 4 or 5 days ago now, and I just think it sounds good. I used it live for a vocal, singing and all that kind of stuff, and I loved it. We used it actually on a recording, and it sounded great. I thought, you know what, this might make for a really great podcasting microphone. It did pick up a bit of spill from the other instruments. Obviously, most vocal microphones will do that, but it was way more isolated than I thought it was going to be. So for my money, I reckon both of these two are the way to go. I might use them a little bit more coming up on the channel or on my podcasts. So let me know what you think of the sound quality of all of these. Let me know which one you like the best and why. I'll post a poll up in the cards. You can vote there as well. If you do have any comments or suggestions that might be helpful for other people, don't forget to comment below as well. If you're new here, please subscribe, click that little bell. If you want to find out more about these microphones, I'll post some links in the description below. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon.